Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Welcome to Selling the Segment, where we spill the secrets to selling every segment of tire. My name is David, and I am here with Nate Dodds. He is the product manager for performance tires at General Tire. Nate, what segment are we talking about today?
We're talking about the ultra high performance tire segment today, David.
UHP tires, one of my all-time favorite segments, but how can you pick a favorite? It's like picking a kid, right? So how would you define the UHP tire segment today, and how has it evolved over the years? How is it different than how people might have thought about it 20 years ago?
Yeah, so I would say the UHP tire segment is really defined by a couple key characteristics. The first of which is kind of the application, right? So we're talking about tires that go on sports cars, sports sedans, performance SUVs. So all these different types of, let's say, sporty type vehicles. I would define it also by the tread pattern design, right? So more aggressive looking, bold tread patterns. Styling matters in this segment. Customers care about how the tire looks. I would also define it by the tire, let's say, characteristics of the sizes, right? So generally 18-inch and above rim diameters, aspect ratios lower than 55, right? So when we talk about aspect ratio, we're talking about overall sidewall height. So lower looks sportier, looks cooler these days. And last, really, overall UHP, customers care about grip. They want the tire to be ultimate performing in the wet, in the dry, and they're willing to make some, let's say, compromises to get there.
And, this brings me down an interesting road here, because within the UHP segment, and, I would argue that customers who are coming to their tire dealer to purchase a set of UHP tires, they might be a little more knowledgeable than your average customer coming in for just, a standard set of all seasons or something like that. And so when they're coming in, there are almost different segments of the UHP segment within this segment. So, for example, General Tire has the G-Max AS07, which is categorized as a UHP all-season tire. Then we have the G-Max RS, which is categorized as a UHP summer tire. Can you kind of give us some details on what is the difference from a manufacturing perspective and then also from the selling perspective?
Yeah, so from a manufacturing, or I like to say a design perspective, summer tires generally have less tread depth than all season. This is due to summer tires that customers care about ultimate grip, right?
Yeah.
Summer tires also have stiffer tread blocks, so bigger, outer shoulder blocks. Some of the center ribs are much stiffer than all season tires. But I think something generally people kind of lose sight of is that summer tires also have stiffer sidewalls than all season tires. When you're putting that much lateral load in summer tires, you take the tires and the vehicle to the track, you need a tire that maintains its rigidity going around, high lateral G turns. So you need a stiff sidewall for that. Maybe last, I think, difference between the two tires is that summer tires are sacrificing wear, so mileage of the tire, for peak grip, right? The customer cares about the ultimate traction, and they're willing to give up some tread wear to get there.
Are both of these styles of tires, are they both expected to perform well in both dry and wet conditions, or is the all-season better at one of these than the summer tire?
Yeah, so summer tires actually, people think of them purely in relation to dry performance, but actually they're very strong in the wet. The difference between all season and summer is that all season tires have smaller blocks, more siping, compounds that are more, tuned towards ultimate winter performance and more balanced overall, right? All season needs to perform well in, the wet, the dry, everyday noise and comfort, but they also need to last a long time. Whereas summer tires, it's all about peak wet and dry performance. So they're quite different, yes.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the customer themselves. We're always talking about selling for the application. And so are there any traits that you tend to see in those customers who are coming in looking for a set of UHP tires, maybe the styles of vehicles that they're driving, or, something about their personality?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a couple, let's say, unique characteristics of UHP tire buyers, right? So I kind of summarize it. They're generally into everything related to their performance car. They bought this BMW M3 or a Chevrolet Corvette or a Mustang or now performance SUVs like a Dodge Durango SRT, right?
Hmm.
And those customers, they want to modify the vehicle. They want to go to car clubs on the weekends with their friends. They want to go to Cars and Coffee, to show off their car. The looks of the vehicle matter also to UHP tire buyers, right? They
Hmm.
they want a tire that looks cool to go with their kind of the lifestyle they're portraying with their vehicle. So that's what I would say the car side of it is related to UHP segment. But there's also certain buyers that I call them the unassuming UHP tire buyer.
Mm.
Those are generally customers. They bought something like a BMW X3, and that vehicle came with a W or Y rated, speed rated tire. So that customer, they might not be as in tune with the tire world, but their vehicle came with the UHP tire. So they need a little bit more education from the dealer
Mm.
side to explain to them your vehicle came with UHP tires that you should replace also with those UHP tires.
I think that's such a good point, that education aspect from the dealer level. I mean, of course you can learn a lot from doing your research online, and your average customer today is coming in with so much more knowledge than they used to, but you still cannot beat that dealer interface and being able to ask questions on the fly, and maybe there's something that you're not realizing that you're misunderstanding about a specific segment or even a specific tire that dealer is going to be able to explain. So, having that educational aspect on the dealer side, obviously really, really important.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
Is there a misconception about UHP tires out there that maybe, a lot of customers, they're coming in believing something about this segment that, maybe it's just not true, or maybe, with a little tweak, it might be true?
Yeah, I think that there's two big misconceptions that I see generally. The first is that UHP tires are only for sports cars. Dealers and some consumers think, well, if I don't have a Mustang or a Corvette, I don't need UHP tires, right? But I think with the modern vehicles you see the OEMs coming out with, we see more and more performance SUVs every day. If you go to
Mm.
any parking lot, it's Ford Explorer, the ST version, the Dodge Durango SRT, and all these different performance SUVs that need UHP tires, right? They come with it from the factory. So I think that's the first misconception. And I would say the second one is really, with the um, new amount of EVs coming to our world, electric vehicles. Generally, customers are going to more touring oriented tires. They care about longevity and mileage. But there are some customers we see that want ultra high performance all season tires specifically. They live in an environment that gets a mild amount of snow or mild winters, let's say, and they believe they want the grip that UHP tires have. They want that performance aspect. They go to Cars and Coffee with their Tesla Model 3. So I think there's a lot of customers out there that also want a UHP tire, even for electric vehicles.
I think that's a really, really great point. When it comes to maintenance, how can these drivers, how can these customers make sure that they are getting the most out of their purchase and that they're going to be happy in the long term with that purchase of their UHP tire? Do you have any maintenance tips for the tires themselves, or maybe even the vehicle?
Yeah, I think there's a couple key points here for vehicle maintenance, tire maintenance. They're more general points, I would say. The first is maintain alignment, right, as
Hmm.
specified by the OEM. Specifically in UHP, there's a lot of vehicles, for example, from BMW that have certain more aggressive alignments from the factory. They have a little bit more negative camber in the front, -1 or 2 degrees. So it's important to maintain that alignment from a safety aspect and from a tire wear perspective. Of course, proper inflation, it always comes into play, right? You don't want to be overinflated or underinflated. You want to make sure you're following the vehicle basically specified pressure.
Hmm.
But last and the most important, I would argue, is tire storage. So for UHP tires and specifically summer tires, those are not made to be designed to be stored outside. The compounds that go in these UHP summer tires are made for warmer climates, obviously, and leaving them exposed to moisture, to cold temperatures, can lead to the compounds getting more brittle and ultimately can lead to cracking. So you don't want to leave summer tires outside exposed. I generally leave mine in the garage, or I mean, obviously you can't maintain, certain temperatures in certain garages, but at least keep it in a garage. It keeps it consistent. Moisture out and dry, basically.
And on that note, we hear a lot of different ways that people like to store their tires, and I don't know if people are aware of the right way or the correct way. Do you recommend that people stack those tires, or even hang them? I mean, what is the best method for storing those tires?
Yeah, to avoid flat spotting, I prefer to have the tires basically stacked one on top of another, layered, versus having them, stacked vertically, sitting for long periods of time. This can lead to flat spotting. And for those of you who don't know, flat spotting is basically if you leave that tire exposed to sitting at one position for a long time, you drive out, I don't know, on your Corvette on a cold morning, you're going to feel this vibration through the wheel. And ultimately, that's flat spotting. The tire has been exposed to too much of the same position for too long at a cold temperature. So I prefer to stack layered top to bottom.
Got it. And that's a great recommendation for just about any tire, not necessarily just UHP. Sure. Nate, thank you so much. I've learned a lot about selling this segment, so I really appreciate your time with the UHP tire segment.
Thank you.
Yep, take care.